The Bible talks about as sort of agents of Satan, I suppose, antichrists, and there seem to be more than one. They seem to use the plural. Would I know one if I met one?
Well, it's interesting because it doesn't occur much. It's mainly in 1 John. I think nearly all the references are in 1 John, if I remember. There may be one in Revelation. But in 1 John, he says, well, we know that the Antichrist is coming at the end of the world, and that's why we know it is the end. This is the last hour, because the Antichrists have come. But you're right, he jumps from single to plural. And he also jumps from a kind of spiritual being to humans.
Right.
Because he says there are many Antichrists have come, and they went out from us because they were not of us. And so they turn out to be the humans who left John and the other believers and went on. And so it's like Peter. Jesus doesn't say, Peter, I hear the voice of Satan in your words. Jesus says, Peter, get behind me, Satan.
Yes. So the person who speaks for Satan becomes his agent.
Yes, becomes his agent. So the antichrists, the human antichrists, are the kinds of fronts for the antichrist who stands behind them. Now, those antichrists in 1 John, it's chapter 2, deny that Jesus is the Christ. And because they deny Jesus, they effectively deny God the Father.
So, and these are people who, in those days and maybe in this day, are among us in the Christian community or have gone out from us, so they know what we're teaching and they're saying the opposite.
Yes, although I think in 1 John, I think it's referring to the Jews who left Jesus.
Right.
So in John chapter 6, there are many disciples who are with Jesus, and when Jesus actually spells out and explains himself clearly, they wanted to make him king because he turned the bread into feeding 5,000. And he explains himself clearly to them. And we read towards the end of John chapter 6, it's a long chapter, so I can't remember the exact verse, but it's right towards the end. From that point on, many of his disciples left him.
The wrong sort of Messiah, weren't happy.
They weren't happy with the Messiah. And John is saying they went out from us because they were not of us.
So they're the people who went out.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, they're the ones in John 8 who used to believe in him, that Jesus says, you are of the devil.
Right, right.
Because if you remain with the Son will set you free. And they say, well, we've never been slaves to anybody, forgetting that they were in Egypt the slaves of Pharaoh, and they're in Babylon the slaves of Nebuchadnezzar, but now we've never been slaves to anybody. It's like Britain rules the waves. And then it goes on, Jesus goes on and says, your father is Satan. It's a very politically incorrect thing to say today.
Yes.
They say, no, God is our father. Abraham is our father. God is our father. And he says, no, if you reject the Son, you reject the Father. Now that's the same argument that's there in 1 John chapter 2.
Now, we still live in the last hour of the last days between the first and second comings of Christ. So we should expect antichrists among us. And what I immediately think of when you talk about people denying that Christ is God come in human flesh is I immediately think of, I don't want to be unkind to my friends, theological liberals, who that seems to be their starting point, the Unitarian starting point of, Jesus, good man, but
yes, I think with 1 John, it's commonly seen as a denial of his incarnation. I think it's much more the denial of his resurrection.
Right.
The resurrection of his incarnate being.
Yes.
That Jesus continues man risen from the dead. But there are all these liberal Christians who want to claim to be Christians, but who deny that Jesus has physically risen from the dead.
A spiritual event or something,
yes.
They'll say, yes.
And so, therefore they're denying the Christ. Because the evidence for the Christ is that he rose from the dead.
So it's more than doctrinal error, it's more than a variety of doctrinal opinion. They become the Antichrist at that point.
Yes.
Or is that too strong?
There's very strong words, but yes, if you are denying that Jesus is the Christ, if that is your basic theological position, then you are basically the Antichrist.
That means that really nice people, quite famous and important people,
yes,
journalists, academics, actors, celebrities, clergy,
yes,
bishops,
yes,
could all be Antichrists in that sense.
Yes. Anybody can be. And you see, because we've got this superstitious nonsense about capes and horns and all the rest of it, when you say a person's an Antichrist, this is I don't know, it's a blasphemy. Well, what's the word? It's libel. It's
defamatory or something. Yes,
but it's not in biblical terms. It's just saying you are opposed to Christ.